think it'd be best if I turn the music off for a while. What follows may require your full concentration. I'd like, for the most part, to keep this documentary free of unnecessary jargon and heavy concepts, but there are a few things I'd like to explain, the understanding of which will give you a deeper appreciation of my hobby. This space here, above my bed, will eventually be filled with a diagram I intend to draw up. A diagram of the Tree of Life. Most people today have some idea of the Tree of Life, but for those of you who don't, here's the gist of it. Whenever a population is split into two smaller populations, over time, those two smaller populations build up genetic differences from the larger population that is ancestral to them. If the two daughter populations remain isolated from each other for long enough, they eventually lose the ability to interbreed. Once that happens, they are said to be different species, and a speciation event is said to have occurred. This can be represented diagrammatically thus, where P1 is the parent population and P2 and P3 are the daughter populations. Of course, given enough time, each of the daughter populations may in turn split and give rise to further species thus. By following the branches backward, we can see how different species, different lineages are related. For very good reasons that sadly are too technical to go into here, scientists who study the evolution of life believe that all creatures that now exist on Earth are descended from one initial population. That is, all life is part of one vast tree whose trunk arose shortly after the Earth cooled down, only a few 100 million years after the formation of our solar system. It may be that other lineages existed, unrelated, arising from a different emergence of life event, but if so, they've left no discernible trace. Now, if we take the dinosaurs as an example of life's tendency to split into branches, we see that very early in dinosaurian history, the population began to diverge into two branches that would lead to the two major dinosaurian groups, Saurischia and Ornithischia. The most obvious diagnostic feature separating the two groups is the shape of the pelvis, which is made of three bones: the ilium, which connects to the backbone, the pubis, and the ischium. Birds have a pubis that points backward and lies parallel with the ischium. So dinosaurs that have a backward-pointing pubis are called ornithischian, or bird-hipped dinosaurs. Those whose pubis points forward are called saurischian, or lizard-hipped dinosaurs. Somewhat confusingly, birds are themselves saurischian, lizard-hipped, not ornithischian. The backward-pointing pubis evolved twice, once early on in the ancestors of ornithischians, and again millions of years later in a group of saurischians, the ancestors of birds. The important point here is that birds are more closely related to other saurischians like Allosaurus and T-Rex, and even Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus, than they are to the various groups of ornithischian, like, say, Stegosaurus or Triceratops. Of course, no sooner did the first population of primitive dinosaurs diverge into saurischians and ornithischians than each of those populations then split into two groups. The saurischians gave rise to two important groups: the theropods, or beast feet, including all of the two-legged carnivorous dinosaurs, and the sauropodomorpha, the long necks, or sauropods, and their primitive relatives. The ornithischians gave rise to the thyreophorans, these are the stegosaurs and the ankylosaurs, and the sauropoda, which includes the ornithopods, bipedal vegetarians like Iguanodon and Parasaurolophus, and the marginocephalians, or ridgeheads. These are the pachycephalosaurs, or buttheads, and the ceratopsians, like Triceratops and Styracosaurus. Dinosaur buffs have no problem with these names, and in fact will probably be incensed at my simplification of the matter, But for the purposes of this video, it's enough to grasp the idea that all known dinosaurs fall into one of four groups, and that these four groups, Theropoda, Sauropodomorpha, Thyreophora, and Sauropoda, can themselves be resolved into the two groups Saurischia, lizard-hipped, and Ornithischia, bird-hipped dinosaurs. So, how does all this relate to my claim that my figures are all learning aids? Well, as I said earlier, for the most part I try to arrange my figures phylogenetically, according to their relationships. Some collectors prefer to arrange their figures in order of time, Triassic, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Cenozoic, etc. Others by place or scale. Still others by series or sets, keeping those made by the same manufacturer together. But whichever way you organise them, as long as they are organised and not just randomly placed, they help you to remember the logic behind that particular criteria.